Shopping for a compact SUV? Join the millions of Americans who want a Honda CR-V or a Subaru Forester. Now, these two are both hybrids. Hybrids in terms of better fuel efficiency and improved performance. For the first time on a Forester, you're talking about actual speed. And on the CR-V, this Trail Sport Edition promises some more off-road performance. For around $40,000 with a lot of equipment, I'm going to show you which one is truly better. The CR-V was new for 2023, the Forester new for 2025. Both of these SUVs are in their 6th generation. The CR-V first offered a hybrid for 2020, the Forester just now for 2025. The Forester gets a pretty big redo for 2025, a larger grille, bigger headlights, a nice white accent below the LED running lamp, different wheel styles, but essentially this is the same Forester we've known since the 90s. The basic profile is all there. It's short overhangs, a lot of interior space, big flat windows. It's a little dorky because it's a Subaru. That's what everyone loves about it. It's not here to set the bar for fashion. But for 2025, the hybrid now sports an exclusive color, Daybreak Blue. These are 18-inch wheels because you're looking at the premium, which is at the very bottom of the hybrid ladder. And among the hybrids, it doesn't have any difference except for the badging. There's no special wheels or anything else going on here. I like the Forester. It is certainly not my favorite for design choice. You're definitely not setting any trends here, but you're also not supposed to be. This is a Subaru Forester. It's doing exactly what it says it will. We gotta talk about the obvious. Honda is out here thieving. They're out here taking the best styles from Volvo, from BMW, Audi, and they're blending it into their own design language. The CR-V, no matter which trim, especially from the back, it's looking like an X1, X3, XC60. That's a really good thing for Honda and Honda customers. Not so much if you're driving a BMW. Sorry, you're probably overpaid. And this car, as the Trail Sport, it actually has some more features on it. For 2026, all of the hybrid trims now have black window surrounds, and you also get new 18-inch wheels across the board. On the Trail Sport, you're also getting a silver skid garnish. It's not actually a skid plate. And also these all-terrain tires. Now, unlike the Pilot and the Passport Trail Sports, this Trail Sport does not have any suspension lift, there's no skid plate, there's no special driving modes. But the CR-V looks good all the same. This one has a special paint that's exclusive to the Trail Sport, and it is ash green pearl. I do like it, but I think the Subaru actually wears this type of color better than the CR-V. That's just my preference. Compared to the Forester, the CR-V in any trim has the more distinctive and I think more upscale and refined look. The Subaru is 1.6 inches taller than the Honda, but the Honda has the longer wheelbase and overall length. 1.5 inches, 1.2 inches in the wheelbase, and also another 1.5 inches in extra body width. But in terms of clearance, it's the Subaru, 8.7 inches versus 8.2 on the Honda. And remember, the Trail Sport has no off-road credentials whatsoever other than the tires. Every single Forester comes this way. This is now the fastest Forester. That's a big deal because there's 14 more horsepower than a regular Forester in this hybrid. 194 horsepower and 199 pound-feet of torque. Now there's two motors, similar to the Honda, and it's an all-wheel drive system that's just the same as in any other Subaru, any other Forester. A symmetrical all-wheel drive, which essentially just means all the four wheels are always turning. There's an actual drive shaft. Unlike some hybrid SUVs, such as the RAV4 hybrid, there's no separate electric motor driving the back axle. Because all the wheels are engaged, whenever you get a slight loss of traction, a system like this reacts that much quicker. Now the engine here, despite it being basically just like a regular Forester, it's a 2.5 liter horizontal 4. It's actually tuned just for this car, so it's running on the Atkinson cycle. And the CVT, the continuously variable transmission, isn't actually what other Subarus have. It's actually using planetary gear sets inside, no pulleys like a regular CVT. That's all tech talk, but really, when you drive this Forester hybrid, it doesn't feel any different than a regular Forester, only there's more low-end, basically shove. At higher speeds, it does peter out a little bit more than the CR-V hybrid. But the nice thing is it feels just like any Forester, only it is quieter, noticeably. Not so much on wind noise, but definitely engine noise. That's always been Subaru's weak point, hearing these engines just kind of buzz constantly. It doesn't drone as much. You can definitely feel where the electric motors are absolutely assisting. And there's only one electric drive motor. The other one is essentially acts as a starter motor and a generator. So a good hybrid system and generally good on-center feel with this car. And when you're driving, really, it's just, the visibility is incredible. Thin pillars, low windows. I mention that every single time I drive a Subaru because the basics are all here. You're not relying on cameras and sensors, and it has all that. Just driving and getting inside this car, it's gonna be easy for any driver. The hybrid system here is not as smooth and quiet as Honda. Honda is relying on the electric motors for basically all of the driving except for essentially constant highway speed. So that just means that the power delivery comes on a little quicker and smoother than this Forester. But in reality, it's getting similar efficiency, and even though it's down slightly on power, CR-V is really actually not that much quicker. It doesn't feel that way. As with any Forester, the ride is plush. You get more roll and head toss inside the Forester than you do in a lot of the competition. This new Forester, especially with the WRX tuned electric steering, they've made enough refinements so it definitely drives better than really any previous generation before it. But the Honda is definitely nailed down, buttoned down to a T. It absolutely is. Subaru doesn't put that same level of attention to detail, I think, into chassis tuning. They want to make sure that it rides well and it performs well in rough conditions. That's really the ideal situation. And I think most people are going to like this, because I certainly do. And the added weight here in a Forester hybrid is really undetectable. And the brakes are actually good too. The regen is excellent. Subaru does not have nearly as much experience making hybrid systems as other manufacturers, but this one came out a lot better than I expected. Subaru's EyeSight comes standard like it does on every Forester, every Subaru for that matter. And the steering assist is pretty good on marked highways. There's no hands-off feature, so don't expect that here in this Forester, not yet. But on this Forester Hybrid Premium, the premium that you pay for the hybrid, you're actually getting standard blind spot assist with rear cross traffic alerts, so that's nice. You are paying more for the hybrid, but you do get some extra features. The handling and grip are really the last things you think about when you're talking about performance in a Subaru Forester, but this one has it. It's pretty confident. There's not enough power for it to really let you have any real fun, but in terms of traction, road holding, all the things that you want safely in a nice car, including good brakes, good brake feel, all of it's here. A Subaru Forester is just such an easy car for anyone to drive. There's some more punch in Honda's hybrid system. A little bit more power too. Just over 200 horsepower and over 240 pound-feet of torque. And like Subaru, the CR-V hybrid is using a rear axle with a drive shaft. And that's notable because all four wheels are engaged. Honda's hybrid system is a two-motor setup that's primarily using the electric motors for almost all of the propulsion. And it's also not even using a transmission, it's a direct drive. So there's no gears at all, except there are two. It's hard to understand that, but there is a low gear and a high gear connected to that electric drive motor. And that really just does change the torque. You just can't change what gear you're actually in. But unlike the Forester hybrid, when you use the paddle shifters, it's not trying to simulate gears, it's actually changing the brake regen, which I like. But the engine RPM will rise and fall to mimic gears. It's really there actually as a simulation. And in some ways the engine does need to run because it's acting as a generator to help give extra electric power, right? So it needs to do that. But in many ways, Honda did this so it would mimic a regular CR-V or any conventional gas-powered car. But fuel efficiency isn't that much better on this Trail Sport. Because of the all-terrain tires and their rougher tread pattern, it takes away a few miles versus a regular CR-V hybrid. So you're getting in the high 30s in the city. And really though, overall, both of these cars, we've been averaging about, say, 30 mpg combined. That's okay, but it's also not nearly as good as what you'll find in compact sedan hybrids like, say, the Civic hatchback, for example, which we just reviewed. Cars like that, or the Toyota Prius, you know, that's what really gives you the real efficiency gains. SUVs like this, they do, but not as much as you really would think. CR-V hybrid definitely a little peppier, but really not all that much, because this is actually a heavy vehicle for a small car. It's like 3,900 pounds, so is the Forester. I prefer how Honda's hybrid system works in the smaller Civic, but in this car, it's working well. And what works the best though is the chassis. Honda's steering and their suspension tuning. It feels like it's soaking up bumps about the same as the Forester, but it actually is on the road more. It just feels like it's glued down more. So I prefer the way the CR-V drives in every operation, but in terms of efficiency and power, it's actually not surpassing the Forester by all that much. On this Trail Sport, there's no trail driving mode that you'll find in Honda's bigger SUVs like the Pilot and the Passport. What it does have is what Honda calls low-speed traction management, and you could call that as similar to Subaru's X mode, where it will change the all-wheel drive split depending on the terrain. It'll now do it 50-50 split in certain situations as opposed to 60-40, and that does help, especially with these tires too. It definitely does if you're in some worse conditions. But if you truly are in those type of conditions all the time, you get a Forester Wilderness. It won't be the hybrid, but we've reviewed the previous generation one and the new one, and that car is just pretty much unstoppable because it's got equipment on it that this Honda could only dream of. And right off the lot, the Subaru is actually offering more off-road dimensions, capability on just this base model hybrid versus this upper trim level CR-V. But I think you're better off spending your money, increasing the efficiency, and honestly, to me, getting an even nicer looking exterior without really the extra frippery of those tires and rims. I would prefer something like a Sport or Sport Touring. Honda sensing is standard on every CR-V and CR-V hybrid. It definitely has a good lane centering feature, very similar to Subaru's, not a hands-off system, but got all the features you'll want. When you throw the CR-V hybrid into a corner, it definitely exits with more authority, corners a bit flatter, really like a Honda Civic, only a little heavier and taller, and you can notice that mass. But even so, the brakes, very confident. This is definitely a more fun SUV to drive if you're valuing that type of thing, and for the most part, I do. The CR-V is styled after the Civic, everything from the steering wheel to the touch points, the dashboard, the seating position, so it feels sportier in all dimensions than the Forester. Honda doesn't offer many color choices. Most CR-V models come just like this, in all black, but the quality of the materials and the design are definitely on point. And on the Trail Sport, you're getting orange accents on the steering wheel and the seats, amber ambient lighting, rubber floor mats, and on this trim, a sunroof, a heated steering wheel, and heated seats come standard. In the Forester, you sit down low, but you're sitting in a greenhouse, a big moonroof, which is standard on this trim, 2 inches more headroom and legroom than the CR-V, and the color scheme here is something you can't get on most Honda CR-V trims at all. It brightens up everything in a really good way. Just the detail and coloring on the front seats, and they're very supportive and comfortable, that's what makes the Forester interior a bit better in my opinion. The fit and finish, Honda is still a bit better, but on all the details you see, including this 3D texturing on the dash, more cloth on the door panels, and a lot of soft touch surfaces that weren't there in previous generation Foresters. Subaru has stepped up, and it's also kept its old self going strong. A big benefit of the CR-V and the Forester are rear doors that open practically 90 degrees. There's so much space inside for ingress and egress. It makes getting in and out of here so simple. And there's more room back here, about a ½ inch more legroom and headroom than the Forester. The back bench here is actually a little too flat for me. I don't think it's as supportive or comfortable as the front seat. Not as good as the back seat of the CR-V, but the doors open really wide. There's air vents, USB ports, and another nice feature that not all cars have, big pockets and lower pockets, 2 tiers of pockets. Cargo space is plentiful on both of these SUVs, but it's the CR-V that has considerably more. Behind the second row, it has just over 36, where the Subaru is just over 27. When everything is folded, you're looking at over 76 for the CR-V and just over 69 on the Forester. However, the Forester does have 3 more cubic feet of extra passenger volume. That's the total volume of the entire interior. So interior space is actually better inside here. And if you're getting the Forester Hybrid, even though it's an increased price versus the regular Forester, you're getting a power tailgate as standard on this premium trim. The CR-V has a 9-inch touchscreen. That's what comes standard on most trims. This is actually up 2 inches from the previous model year. A larger touchscreen, 10.2 inches, is optional. You get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, wireless, one volume knob. Not a whole lot of controls here on the actual screen itself. This is really all you're getting. And Honda has reduced most of the system settings here and moved them to the instrument panel. You used to be able to adjust basically everything from vehicle settings, all the advanced driver assistance, whether the doors lock or not at speed. That's no longer here. It's actually harder to use. So even though I like the size of this screen and also the physical climate controls, which the Forester does not have, I like this layout a whole lot more. I'll just say that. The digital instrument panel, it looks good. It definitely looks more modern than Subaru. You get a lot of information here on the right-hand side, but you have to go all the way into here to adjust settings that were normally on the touchscreen. So say if you want to adjust the driver systems, this is honestly really difficult to use just while parked because you have really no idea what's coming next and you have to cycle through, essentially blind. This I don't like. And Honda does not have this on every single model. It happens to be on the CR-V, but for example, it's not on the Civic Hybrid. We've reviewed that one. There's also no full screen maps, so you can't get that. There's no way to really adjust any of the other styles majorly by any means. And there's also no navigation on this trim and no Sirius XM. You can adjust audio on this side, but Honda is removing that feature from a lot of its models. I think that's a mistake, especially at this price point. The Forester has an 11.6-inch touchscreen as standard. It definitely looks older, but it's nice and big. The only really thing I don't like about it, the climate controls are all the way down here and they're not physical buttons except for the temperature on the side and the defrosters, but really everything else is here. So I really prefer the way Honda has done it, where it's just easier. It doesn't take over the entire screen. But there is navigation, which you cannot get in the CR-V unless it's the very top trim. And there's no Google or anything like that here, but lots of settings. You got X mode controls up here for your all-wheel drive settings. You can scroll here for weather and other things like that for navigation. So pretty decent. And I like the fact that it's nice and big, but definitely just like the CR-Vs, not really the best out there. For the first time in any Subaru, a digital instrument panel. And of course, because it's built by Subaru, it looks old on purpose. I love Subaru for that, gotta say, but you look at this. I can switch that to full screen maps. This is actually very useful. You can also, with the steering wheel, see all of the other things like trip and tire pressure, all that good stuff, see some of the hybrid operation. But just using this on the steering wheel, and then you're also able to use the EyeSight controls for the look at that. Lane departure, all of that good stuff, steering assist. So it actually is pretty good. It's way better than any Forester was before, and it's actually a lot better than the CR-Vs. The Honda CR-V starts at $31,000. There are 7 trims, and the hybrids are mostly at the top ends. We tested the Trail Sport hybrid at around $41,000. The Subaru Forester starts at $30,000. There are 10 trims. We tested the Premium Hybrid at $38,000. The Forester wins not because of the tech, certainly not because of its looks, and also not because of its handling. It's the honesty that's on sale here. The all-wheel drive system that is completely unaffected by regular Foresters, but with greater performance and efficiency. A lot of features for less money. And really, I just think it actually is a little bit more fun to drive than the CR-V hybrid, which I did not expect. I just like how the Subaru is and what it isn't. It's just an honest, genuine SUV that, for my money, I think is gonna really, really help sell this. I do think, though, that other CR-V trims, especially the sport hybrids and not this Trail Sport, are better at aping the luxury segment. So you have 2 really good options. It depends how you want to spec them. What do you think? And do you want more SUV comparisons? We've got them, so subscribe to the YouTube channel, go to CarGurus.com, and we'll see you next time.